She quietly defended the royal family's 4 days of silence and seclusion behind the gates of the royal castle in Balmoral, Scotland.
This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered.
So what I say to you now...
And she finished with a plea for an end to division and criticism.
I thought it was very appropriate and a real pro. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was very moving. I felt she touched on all the things that everybody really wanted to hear.
I must say, I would have expected much more emotion for once, but no, sorry to say.
The Queen's speech, her answer to her subjects, came at the end of an unprecedented and very unsettling week for the royal family. It also capped the first day of what the palace has described as a very public ordeal for Diana's sons. It began in Scotland this morning when Prince William and Prince Harry, along with their father Prince Charles, boarded a plane in Aberdeen to fly back to London. In the early afternoon, they came to Kensington Palace, where Diana had lived, and where an immense sea of flowers and a large crowd of people awaited them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It was an emotional occasion, of hands reaching out, of flowers offered and tears shed. The young princess smiled and talked and took the gifts of flowers and added them carefully to the millions of others. It seemed a kind of catharsis. An hour later, the Queen and Prince Philip ripped up the royal rulebook and for the first time in 50 years walked outside Buckingham Palace to do as their grandsons had done. In the evening, a hearse bearing the coffin of Diana left St. James's Palace to take her through the streets of London, through a silent, sad sea of people, to her home at Kensington Palace. In a car behind her rode her sons and their father. Tomorrow, her sons will again follow her through the streets to Westminster Abbey and her funeral. Don Murray, CBC News, London.
Well, one of the almost 2,000 guests invited to the funeral tomorrow is Canadian Sandra Horley. She's the director of the charity Refuge, a network of women's shelters here in Greater London. Diana took a very personal interest in Refuge, and earlier today I spoke with Sandra Horley about her relationship with the princess.
Well, you've known and worked with Diana for the past 5 years. What struck you most personally about her?
I was very struck by her warmth and her enthusiasm, her sense of fun and sense of humor. I can remember the first time I had lunch with her at Kensington Palace. I'd practiced my curtsy for 2 days, as you would. And when I arrived, you can imagine my surprise when she came bounding down the stairs and gave me a great big hug and welcomed me. And she was very effusive, very warm and generous. That's just the way she was.
We've heard so much this week about the different charities that she's been involved with and her commitment to them beyond just the use of her name. There really was a commitment.
Well, there's definitely a commitment. Her charity work was her life. She believed in so many different causes. And in terms of our organization, it was private work. She carried this work out in secret, away from the glare of the cameras. She was truly committed to her charity work and to helping Refuge and raising the issue of domestic violence. In fact, with Diana's help, we've managed to put domestic violence back on the map in Britain. She has raised awareness and heightened the issue. And, you know, the world has truly lost a champion for charities.
You'll be one of those in the Abbey tomorrow. What'll be going through your mind?
I feel a terrible sense of loss. I'm very sad, obviously. It's tragic. I mean, the world's most famous woman, most revered woman. She meant so much to so many people. She brought hope and inspiration to the abused women I help. And you know, it's just terribly tragic. I can't imagine even sitting there tomorrow. It doesn't bear thinking about. Watching the children come down the aisle, the coffin. I mean, it's just hard to imagine. It's just very, very tragic, very sad.
Our other big story tonight is about Mother Teresa, the Roman Catholic nun who cared for the poorest of the poor, has died in Calcutta, India, of heart failure. Mother Teresa spent half a century looking after the dying and the destitute, caring for people most of the world wanted to forget. The CBC's Jeffrey Kaufman has this report on the woman known as the Saint of the Gutters.
The woman who dedicated her life to the forgotten was herself remembered tonight as people from
I thought Sandra was particularly courageous because we all descended on her, and I think it's very daunting for her to have a camera, let alone 30, 40 cameras on her.
Princess of Wales brought to her work, and about her ability to focus world attention on people and issues forgotten by the mainstream. Tonight, an example of that commitment. In January, the Princess traveled to Angola to highlight the campaign to ban landmines. She recorded a personal chronicle of that journey. We broadcast that documentary earlier this season. Now, on the eve of Diana's funeral, here again is Diary of a Princess.
Last month, I flew to Angola in southwest Africa. This was a working visit. I wanted to support the Red Cross by highlighting its campaign to ban anti-personnel landmines. 2,000 people every month are killed or maimed by mines around the world. That's one person every 20 minutes. It is my sincere hope that by working together in the next few days, we shall focus world attention on this vital, but until now largely neglected, issue. On my way from the airport, I began to see the effects of 30 years of conflict on this country. I've never seen scenes like it before. I've never been in this environment, but it's very humbling. I was taken to the headquarters of the Red Cross for a background briefing. Accompanied by Mike Whitlam, Director General of the British Red Cross, with local knowledge supplied by François de la Roche, the Angola head of delegation. We left Luanda to travel out to a Red Cross health post at Kikola. Driving through the outskirts of the city, we saw some of the thousands of displaced people, unable or too afraid to return home, because much of their country remains mined.
Absolutely stuck on. The press asked me if you were going to see a sanitized version. Ain't no way. You see what we see, but that's not fair for you to see a sanitized version because it serves no purpose.
Exactly. At the Kikola health post, we were due to visit a well baby clinic. They were expecting us.
We've got plenty of time.
Some of the health post patients have been injured by landmines. I met two women, both of whom had lost legs. Can the lady tell me how long she's been coming here?
Since 1986, but my accident was in 1989.
Don't her friends help her?
I understand they don't help. They don't help, they can't help you.
Because they don't want to?
No, they don't help, they can't.
They just can't. Let me say thank you very much for having me. I'm enormously impressed by what your staff do to support all these important people. Onwards, which way? We follow. I was introduced to a group of young soldiers. One told me he felt very inadequate because he couldn't provide for his family, and that upset him more than losing his leg. The next patient I met was Sandra de Chica. Will you ask her where the mine was?
She was trying to get some food with her mother when she stepped on a landmine.
How long has she been waiting for a prosthesis?
She's awaiting for the prosthesis for about 3 years.
She's 13? So presumably between 13 and 20, she'll have to have how many prostheses?
From 6 months, she has to change.
Every 6 months, she has to have a new one. Will you ask her how she feels about this?
She's okay.
Will you say to her, I hope she doesn't mind us all seeing here?
Not important to start with. She's still fine.
Okay.
What range of stuff? What do we reckon that was how many countries with landmines around there? Was it 56?
71.
71, or 70.
We can show you a list of those.
Actually, what I have got for you, which I found in my papers this morning, which you may not have seen, is the list of countries as well who've signed up to the Canadian protocol.
The one in Ottawa?
Yeah.
Ma'am, yes, on her left. Okay. I thought Sandra was particularly courageous because we all descended on her. And I think it's very daunting for her to have a camera, let alone 30, 40 cameras on her. But I did ask her, I tried to reassure her that this was going to help other children around the world. And she seemed happy. And it does raise the trauma of what this little girl's going through. And it's made us much wiser to her, the extent of her injuries. Being a mother of 2 boys, one wants to go out and help these children. And particularly in the case where little people have lost their legs, a part of their future's been taken away. So we ask him to smile too, otherwise I'm going to be most upset. My second day began early with a flight to Quito. On arrival, I met Gerald Fitzpatrick of the Red Cross and Paul Heslop, a mine clearance expert working for the Halo Trust.
Debris around. 6,500 items from the town so far. So just be careful about, if you see anything interesting, just ask me and I'll say yes, it's safe to touch or not.
Ma'am, the government minister's home has said you're a loose cannon by supporting this campaign. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, Jenny, I'm only trying to highlight a problem that's going on all around the world. That's all.
It's been said, though, that you're aligning yourself with Labour policy. Do you think that's wise?
Labour? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're...
We need to move on. The programme going.
Thank you very
much.
You want to... I think I would just...
Let's keep going this way, so...
Yes.
Front, please, Mike. It'd be great.
That's okay. So that was...
Oh, Mike, I really make you burst into tears now.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Who said I'm a loose cannon? I'm not a political figure, nor do I want to be one, but I come with my heart, and I want to bring awareness to people in distress, whether it's in Angola or any part of the world. The fact is, I'm a humanitarian figure, and always have been, and always will be.
What we now like to do is to invite you to the minefield. Don't be embarrassed about asking questions. If at any time you have any doubt if you're in a safe area or unsafe area, just stand still, draw attention to yourself. If you find as a result of the blast you've gone into an uncleared area, stay still and we'll come and get you out.
Thanks.
This chap here is using his probe to feel in, to see if there's anything there. When he's sure there's nothing there, start scraping away the soil. Millimetre at a time, inch by inch. And then just box in. Then the area's clear. And it can be used again. Okay. Firing. Well done, Mom. Thank you.
What's happened here?
She herself footed on the mine and all the intestines got out.
Intestines?
Intestines, yes. Now the intestines are outside, but they will put it later.
That's what we'd call a colostomy,
Yeah, that's right. So that's why presumably she's lost the weight that she has. She's lost the weight because she can't take in nutrition.
Enough.
I think that's enough.
She eats, but we don't have the quality of food to give to her.
How old is she?
Mas nós temos 7 years old.
When you see children, little children like that, in that situation, it just brings it all to the surface. It's been very sad what I've seen. That was very traumatic as a mother to witness. If these children are to have a future, we must end the use of these evil weapons. The only way forward is for a total worldwide ban on anti-personnel landmines.
International negotiators meeting in Oslo to draft a treaty banning landmines paid tribute to Diana's work this week. The treaty is scheduled to be signed in Ottawa this December. Please stay with us. When we come back, I will tell you about our coverage of Diana's funeral. For tonight and this most extraordinary week, live coverage of Diana's funeral begins at 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And for those of you in Saskatchewan and Points West, our coverage begins after the national and your regional news. The funeral procession is expected to start at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, and we will rebroadcast our special funeral coverage at noon Eastern Time tomorrow. That's it for all of us here and in London. Good night.
The whole world mourns, saying goodbye to Diana, Princess of Wales. Live coverage now begins at 1:30 a.m. Eastern in Ontario and Points East, 12:30 a.m. in Manitoba, and after your late local news in the West on CBC.
The Argos battle the Bombers Sunday on the CFL on CBC.